Good evening. It's February 2nd, 2022. Anchorage Platting Board is now in session. May I have roll call?
Don Porter,
Present.
Jana Weltson,
Present.
Karin McGillivray,
Present.
Kevin Cross,
Present.
Valerie Ritz,
Present.
Ryan Morman,
Present.
Zach Young.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Appreciate it. Ryan, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. All right, we will be moving, let's take a look at your staff packets. We'll be moving to approvals, and we're looking first for a motion to approve the action summary. But before we do, we will be requesting Jana to abstain since she was not at the January 5th meeting. So,
That sounds good.
excellent. Do we hear anybody opposed to Jana abstaining from the approval of the action summaries? Hearing none, shall we have can I have a motion?
The machine has to catch up to it.
Moved by Zach Young, seconded by Valerie Ritz. Any opposed? Hearing none, action summaries pass. Second, we're looking to approve the minutes. Jana, you may participate in the approval of the minutes. Have a motion to approve the minutes for Wednesday, January 5th, 2022, please. It's all good. We're not going anywhere. Lori's over there looking at you with her judging eyes of judgment. Oh, I knew she was coming. You know this place would fall apart without you. Oh, thank you. Regarding the approval of the minutes for Wednesday, January 5th, 2022, moved by Karin McGillivray and seconded by Don Porter. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes. Minutes pass. Okay, we're moving on to special orders of business. Please pay attention to your packet for do we have any disclosures regarding tonight's cases, first of all? Any disclosures, conflicts of interest? Seeing none, please pay attention to your informational items and the abbreviated plat action summaries for 11022, 11822, 12422, 6721, and a revised for 11922. We'll move on to the consent agenda. We do not have any consent agenda items, so there is nothing to approve there. We'll move on to old business. There's no old business, so we'll be moving on. Hearing anybody have any other motions, we're going to move on to new business. The Platting Board meets each month on the first and third Wednesday, except holidays, as regular meetings. If the Platting Board fails to complete its agenda for its regular meetings, the Board carries over the remainder of the agenda to the following meeting. The procedure by which the public may speak to the Platting Board at its meeting is: 1. After the staff presentation is complete, the public hearing items, the chair will ask for public testimony on the issue. Persons who wish to testify will follow the time limits established in the Commission Rules of Procedure. Petitioners, including his or her representatives, have 10 minutes. Now, part of this time may be reserved for rebuttal. Representative of groups such as community council, PTAs, and etc. have 5 minutes. Individuals have 3 minutes. When your testimony is complete, you may be asked questions by the board. You may only testify once on any issue unless questioned by the board. Any individual may have the right to appeals relating to the action of the Platting Board takes. An appeal decision or any of the conditions is governed by AMC 2111-304. The decision of the board at the scheduled public hearing shall become final 7 calendar days after the date and decision is made on the record, unless a written request is submitted to the Platting Division prior to the expiration of the 7th day to prepare a written consent based upon the record made at the hearing, and the request is accompanied by a written notice of intent to appeal. Adoption of the written decision by the Platting Board becomes the final appealable decision. Within 20 days of the final appealable decision, an interested party may file with the municipal clerk either a written motion alleging new evidence or change of circumstance per AMC 2111-503, or an appeal of the board's final appealable decision per AMC 2130. Excellent. So regarding new business, we will now open case number S1653. May I hear the staff's presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a request to subdivide one tract into 15 lots with variances from cul-de-sacs to exceed 600 feet in length and from curbs and gutters. That's to provide type 1 vertical curb for type 2 rolled curb. This request is being made to allow for the subdivision of land and provide 15 residential lots in Eagle River. The zoning special limitation placed on this parcel states that no more than 320 dwelling units may be constructed in the subdivision. The subdivision of this tract into 15 lots adheres to this limitation, as there are currently 273 platted lots, and the addition of the subdivision brings the total to only 288. The property is, as I mentioned, is zone CER1. The subject parcels meet the minimum lot size and width requirements. There were no objections by the reviewing agencies to this plat in action or variances from cul-de-sac length and curb type. For the road improvements and dedication, River Vista Road and Sasquatch Circle are internal to the subdivision and are not developed and will need to be constructed to municipal standards. The standard for River Vista Road should be a 50-foot right-of-way consisting of a 33-foot wide paved street, including a 5-foot concrete sidewalk constructed on one side and street lights. Sasquatch Circle should be dedicated to 50 feet right-of-way and consisted of a 31-foot paved street with street lights. The petitioner with this plat in action will be required to provide a 5-foot storage easement along the frontage of all lots within this subdivision. In the matter of the variance request, so the petitioner is requesting a variance from Municipal Code Section 21, Chapter 8, that's 030F6A, which is cul-de-sacs to exceed 600 feet in length, and this is for a cul-de-sac, a Sasquatch Circle. The proposed cul-de-sac length only measures 478 feet. However, for this project, the variance is being requested as the entire road from Yellowstone Drive is considered a cul-de-sac. The petitioner is also requesting a variance from section 21.08.050G, that's curbs and gutters, and the requirement to provide type 1 vertical curb. The previous phases of development were approved with type 2 curb, and the short segment of River Vista Road that would be required to have sidewalk that will match the existing development and create continuity along the sidewalk if it is constructed as rolled curb. So in the criteria approval, staff finds that A standard has been met for both. So for the cul-de-sac length, there are special conditions affecting the property in that this subdivision is unique. It is bordered by steep bluffs to the north and west boundaries and presently only has one means of ingress-egress. With previous phases of development, however, there is a provision to provide for a future secondary access to the south on Turlock Drive. For curbs and gutters, the current construction for the adjacent development is rolled curb, and this small short phase would match what is currently constructed. Staff finds condition B has been met. The granting of the variance will provide a road to be built for the subdivision that both adequately serves the neighborhood and accommodates emergency response vehicles. For curbs and gutters, granting the variance will allow for a design that would reduce the sidewalk grade transitions that could be detrimental to users. This allows for pedestrian-friendly sidewalk transitions that are not as steep in grade and greater flexibility in design placement of the structure on the lot. Staff finds condition C has been met for cul-de-sac length. The need for this variance is driven by topography and the surrounding Eagle River greenbelt. Curbs and gutters, standard C has been met. The variance allows for a reasonable alternative to be designed due to conflicts with curb cuts and length of frontage of each lot. Pedestrians will enjoy longer sections of sidewalk without curb cuts due to the lot frontages. Standard D, staff finds that has been met. Cul-de-sac length for the surrounding topography and park ownership limits the options for access and connection to a secondary access point at this time, and it would be infeasible. Condition D for curbs and gutters has been met. Strict compliance with the subdivision regulations would add additional cost to the developer and ultimately the home buyers. The estimated cost to relocate a driveway, if needed, due to the siding of the house after the road section is built, is estimated at $5,000 to $10,000 per driveway. Additionally, Eagle River Street maintenance would have future increased costs due to additional seams in the road section due to the placement of those driveway curb cuts after everything's been built. And generally, reviewing agencies had either no comment or objection to the variance request or the plat, and therefore staff recommends approval of the variance and the plat, subject to conditions found on page 11 and 12 of your staff packet. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for staff? Hearing none, may we hear from the petitioner?
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Craig Bennett, B-E-N-N-E-T-T with S4 Group, and I represent the petitioners tonight. And I want to thank planning staff for all the work that's been on this project, and they presented the case well. So I'll keep this short. As staff stated, this is a small subdivision to create 15 lots at the end of a cul-de-sac. We are asking for 2 variances for cul-de-sac length and to allow for a type 2 rolled curb. Planning, private development, traffic, and all of the other reviewing departments recommend approval of the subdivision and have no objections to the variances. No public comments were received against the subdivision. As staff stated, the platting approval criteria standards are met, and this conforms to the Chugiak Eagle River Comprehensive Plan. And we concur with all the department recommendations. And thank you for your time, and myself or Triad Engineering is here to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you. Would you like to reserve any of your time for rebuttal?
Yes, please.
Thank you. How much time does? 9 minutes. You have 9 minutes. Thank you. And do we have any questions through the chair for the petitioner? Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Seeing none, we'll now open up to public testimony. Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak regarding case number S12653? Do we have anybody on the phones? Seeing none, we'll close public testimony. Mr. Bennett, do you care to rebut? Only if there's any questions. Fantastic. Seems like minimal discussion. So on your staff packet, on your petitioner's packet, page 11, under department recommendations, I'm looking for a motion to approve the variance from AMC 210803F6, cul-de-sacs in excess of 600 feet. Do I have a motion on the floor?
Don't you have to close public?
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. I do have to, we closed public testimony. Thank you. We will now move into voting on the matter. Do we have a motion to approve the variance?
Oh, sorry. There you go. No, sorry. Thanks.
Okay, we have a motion by John Welton and a second by Zach Young. Janet, would you care to speak to your motion?
Sure, I'll move to approve the variance from AMC 2108030F.6A cul-de-sacs to exceed 600 feet in length, subject to recording a suitable plat within 24 months of approval and any approved extensions. I'm going to be voting in favor of this motion. It seems that the agencies that were asked about this in the Muni didn't have any negative comment or any objections. I didn't see any negative public comment, and the information is clear and precise and appears to be a complete request and meets the variance requirements.
Thank you. Do we have any others that would like to speak to this motion? I will also speak. I will hand my gavel. Also, it's important to move, I'm also plan to approve this. It's important to note that although we have an excess of 600 feet, this is for a standard cul-de-sac, and if you pay attention to your plat, this is an unusual cul-de-sac in that it has a short run-in, there's an initial turnaround, probably within 100 feet, and then it extends to the left, and there's a second turnaround. It's very unusual for a cul-de-sac to have two turnaround areas, and part of the length restriction has to do with the need for fire equipment to articulate. And I think that considering the street design and the length, those additional considerations, it seems reasonable to approve the excess length for a cul-de-sac. So I would move to approve. Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Thank you. May we have a vote? Excellent. 7 yeses, 0 nos. Motion passes. Second, I'm looking for a motion for approval of variance AMC 21-005G, curbs and gutters. May I have a motion, please? Moved by Jenna Welton, second by Karen McGillivray. Jenna, would you care to speak to your, would you care to state your motion, please?
Sure, thank you. Through the chair, I move to, for the approval of a variance from AMC 2108050G, curbs and gutters, the requirement to provide type 1 vertical curb for type 2 rolled curb, subject to the following conditions: record a suitable plat within 24 months of the approval and any approved time extensions. I'm sorry.
Would you care to speak to your motion?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will be in support of this motion. It seems kind of nonsensical to have varying curb types within a development, and also it seems like it could be pretty wasteful economically to require the type 1 vertical curb instead of the rolled curb when it comes to relocating driveways and whatnot after the fact. So it just seems like it doesn't make sense, and doesn't seem like there was any negative public comment against it, and it doesn't seem like there was any agency concerns, and staff recommends approval, so I will be voting in favor.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to speak to this motion? Thank you. Hearing none, may we have a vote, please? Seven yeses, 0 no. Motion passes. And finally, I'm looking for approval to the plat, plat for 24 months, subject to the conditions 1 through 6, A and B, 7, A, B, and C, and 8A. May I have a motion, please? It's all good. All right, we have a motion by Jana Weltzen, and do we have a second? Second by Don Porter. Jana, would you please state your motion?
Yes. Before I do, through the chair, do you want me to read all of the conditions?
No, you can just approval for plat, and you just 1, 2,
Okay,
3,
with the
4.
numbers? Okay, great.
Just number them.
Told you. Okay, thank you. Through the chair, I would move to approve the plat for 24 months, subject to the conditions noted on page 11 of our staff report. So that would be C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, C6, 6A, 6B. I would also add, in addition to my motion, the requirements outlined on page 12 of our staff packet, number 7, 7A, 7B, 7C, additionally, item 8A.
Excellent. Jenna, would you care to speak to your motion?
Sure, thank you. Through the chair, I will be supporting this motion. Seems like this is going to be a good development out in Eagle River area. Residential units are definitely needed in that area and throughout Anchorage. And given the thought that was put into this application and the work with planning staff and planning staff's recommendation for approval and no negative public comment and no negative agency issues through agencies, municipality agencies, I will be supporting this motion.
Excellent. Is there anybody else that would care to speak to this motion? Excellent. Dan, you want to hold this? All right, I will also be supporting this motion. One of the things I thought was really considerate in the design is that we look at the total area in the project, and it's actually operating at a little less than 90% capacity. So some of the concerns are for residential development is that there is sometimes a public persona that there is that they pack the houses in there real tightly. But this design is actually far under what could actually be built in the neighborhood. And I think that takes the neighborhood considerations into effect. So I'll also be voting to approve this. Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Hearing none, may we have a motion, please? Excuse me, may we have a vote, please? Seven yeses, 0 noes. Motion. Case passes, thank you. All right, we'll close case S212653. We'll now open case number S12656. May we hear from staff, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This request seeks approval of a commercial tract that proposes to create 2 fragment lots to be developed within Tract 4 of the Alaska Village subdivision. So this request is being made to accommodate the development of a drive-through restaurant building and to create 2 fragment lots, one of which is an existing Walgreens. AMC 21.03.200 allows for a commercial tract plat to be created and divided into fragment lots in order to facilitate construction of commercial developments requiring multiple phases of construction. So no reviewing agencies had objections to the proposed commercial fragment lot site plan. No public comment has been received, and the Northeast Community Council did not comment. The property is located east of Creekside Cent Drive and south of DeBar Road. The property is zone B3 SL and the underlying Tract 4 meets the minimum lot size and width required by the zoning district. Fragment Lot 2 is currently developed with a one-story drive-through Walgreens store with established drive aisles and parking lot. The site plan shows a future drive-through building on Fragment Lot 1. The special limitation of the zoning, which was AO 2001-24S, requires a drive-through restaurant to obtain approval from the municipal assembly. This was obtained as AR 2015-155. Staff has made a condition of approval to provide the required accessible parking spaces, not shown on the site plan, as this was brought up by Traffic Engineering Department. The municipal code requires a commercial tract plat to show building footprints, parking areas, landscaping, driveway access, and drainage, and any fragment lots to be contained within the commercial tract within the proposed declarations and covenants. The site plan shows the building footprints and landscaping for the existing building on Fragment Lot 2 and a proposed building on Fragment Lot 1. The parking areas which will be shared are also shown on the site plan. In commercial tract fragment lot site plans, common access easements are addressed in the declarations, covenants, and restrictions. So staff is requesting a condition of approval to address a common access easement in the declarations, and that would address traffic's comments regarding the parking and access. It should be noted there is also existing attached sidewalk along the Bar Road, and no improvements are required by private development. There is existing sidewalks and paths along Creekside Center Drive and Grass Creek Road as well. So private development did not request any peripheral improvements for this development. And with that, the department recommends approval of the commercial tract plan and site plan, subject to conditions A, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 found on page 6 and 7 of the staff packet. I'm happy to answer any questions, and we have the architect and the surveyor here tonight as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for staff? Thank you. Hearing none, may we please hear from the petitioner?
He is.
Oh, is he on the, he's on Teams? All right, excellent. Looks like for the public and the individuals watching, sounds like our petitioner will be on the phone.
Tony, if you're on there, we can't hear you in the meeting.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. To the chair, my name is Tony Hoffman. I represent the petitioner, and my name is spelled Hoffman, and I represent the petitioner. We agree with all staff conditions as set out. This site plan and fragment lot plat actually allows us to effectuate a site plan that's already been approved. If you look on page 79 of your staff package, this drive-through restaurant site plan actually mirrors what was already approved. So, yeah, we agree with all the staff conditions, and in the auditorium tonight is the engineer, Triad Engineering, and the architect, Chris Cole. We'll be happy to answer any other questions you have. With that, I have nothing else to add tonight.
Thank you. You have 8 minutes and 56 seconds left for rebuttal. How would you like to save?
Thank you.
Would you like to save your time?
I would like to save it all.
Excellent. Do we have any questions for the petitioner? Excellent. We have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now open it up for public hearing regarding case S12656. Is there anybody in the public that would care to speak on this matter? Seeing none, we will give the petitioner the right to either add to his testimony or rebuke.
No, we have nothing else to add. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is Grant with Triad Engineering, Grant Matthews.
All
I'll
right.
just chime in real quick and say that the site plan shown on page 21 obviously goes along with this commercial frag lot plan, but in addition to that, when the actual development is permitted, it'll have to go through MOA private development and be reviewed for grading and drainage, and there is no anticipated negative impacts to adjacent properties with this development. Thanks, that's all.
Thank you. Do we have any additional questions for the petitioner? Actually, I have a question. Dan, care to take my gavel with superiority? This is, if my recollection serves me, this is the second time you guys have tried to replat this for another, there was another development that was slated on this lot. Am I correct that this is, and do we know what the issues were that were created and how maybe some of those problems were resolved?
So we were not on that development
Okay,
team.
that was a
I
different
do know
development.
that there was I believe a Starbucks that was permitted, and that's what Sean referenced, the AO that approved the drive-through configuration.
Okay.
That's listed here. The AR 2015-155. So we're mimicking that configuration with the drive-through, and that's been approved by planning. And so we don't have to go back to the assembly for that
All right.
approval.
I was just curious if maybe there was a drainage or something that was resolved earlier, or something that it was
No,
cleared
I
up,
don't-
but I'd like to know more about and see if there's any issue, but if it's,
I don't think there's anything like that. I just know they went through the process and stopped at some point.
just a different franchise. All right, excellent. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. Do you have any other questions for the petitioner? Seeing none. Let's move. All right, if you'll look on your department recommendations on page 6, I'm looking for approval of the commercial tract plat for site plan. Oh, excuse me, let's go ahead and close public testimony. Seem to keep forgetting that. Now that public testimony is closed, may I have approval of the commercial tract plat and the site plan for 24 months, subject to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5A, B, and it looks like that's it on the end of page 7. We have moved by Don Porter, seconded by Valerie Ritz. Don, would you care to state your motion?
Yes, in the case number S12656, DeBar Commons Frag Lots subdivision, I move for approval of the commercial tract and site plan for 24 months, subject to the following conditions: 1, 2, 2A, 2B, 2C, 3, 4, 5, 5A, 5B, and that's the end.
Excellent. Don, would you care to speak to your motion?
Yes, this is something that we don't see as often. They're asking for site plan approval due to the traffic circulation issues as well as drainage. And the staff analysis has shown us that they have gotten the appropriate reviews and approvals following Title 21. So with that, I would move to approve.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else wishing to speak to Don's motion? All right, seeing none. Oh, yes.
There's
Shannon.
no little button for that, but I would just add that the public testimony or the public comments that are in the packet, by and large, don't seem to point out any real issues or concerns. There's a couple generic statements about maybe it's going to increase alcoholism in the area or homelessness, but I don't really see any logical reason or statement as to why that would be the case. So this looks like a pretty well thought out plan, and the agencies within the muni seem relatively supportive with the conditions that are noted. And so I'll be voting in support of this.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Debate is closed. May we have a vote? Seven yeses, 0 nos. Case 2022, excuse me, S12656 passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now open case S2022-0003. Municipality of Anchorage. May we hear from staff, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Planning Department brings forward this ordinance, which proposes several amendments to Title 21 in Anchorage Municipal Code and AMCR, the Municipal Code of Regulations, with the intent of simplifying the process for appeals of land use decisions. Over the past few years, the municipality has seen a substantial increase in land use appeals, and this has shed light on some areas for improvement. First, to simplify the appeals process in front of the Board of Adjustment, this ordinance would amend AMC 21.03.050 to require the same appeals process for every appeal in front of the Board of Adjustment, rather than dictating a different procedure for appeals of preliminary plats. The distinct process for appeals of preliminary plats was unnecessarily confusing. All appeals to the Board of Adjustment will now begin with filing a notice of intent to appeal, followed by the underlying board or commission adopting written findings, and lastly, filing a notice of appeal. The preliminary notice of intent appeal puts the municipality and the land use applicant on notice early in the process that an interested party intends to appeal. The second change has the purpose to shift responsibility for initial tasks, such as arranging for the appeal record and transcript from the municipal clerk's office to the planning department. The planning department provides staff support to the land use boards and commissions whose decisions are being appealed, so it is more efficient for the planning department to oversee these initial steps. Once the appeal record is complete, the planning department provides the record to the municipal clerk's office, who takes over responsibility for the next steps, including communications with parties on appeal and accepting and dispersing appeal briefs. The third and final element of this ordinance is removing the new evidence change circumstances process available under existing code for the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Platting Board, and the Urban Design Commission. The process allows any interested party to raise supposed new issues for consideration by the decision-making body in lieu of filing an appeal. And in practice, this process is fraught with confusion, especially as interested parties seek to use both this procedure and the appeal process simultaneously. The amendments proposed will help streamline the appeal process in front of the land use appellate boards by creating a single process available to interested parties. The opportunity for boards and commission members to request reconsideration of any vote will be retained. So this is really, the goal of all this is consistency and clarity across all the boards. And I'd like to point out that this has been to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the comments provided by the Home Builders Association have been incorporated into the ordinance already in its entirety. That's what the Planning and Zoning Commission on January 10th was voted to be added. So staff has made that change. Those are the changes there as seen at the pages aren't numbered, but it's the supplemental packet by Ashburn and Mason. So those have been voted to be included, and they have been incorporated in the ordinance. I can answer any questions you have. And once again, it's just to, this is to help kind of streamline and bring some consistency and clarity to the appeals process. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for staff? Hearing none. May I hear from the petitioner? I guess that would be you.
That'll be the staff, so.
There you go.
Yep.
Would you like to add any comments?
No.
All right, very good. Well, since we have no questions, we will now open it up for public testimony. Is there anybody in the public who would care to speak to this motion? Fantastic. Please state your name.
Craig Bennett, B-E-N-N-E-T-T.
Mr. Bennett, are you speaking as a private individual, on behalf of a organization?
Private individual.
You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I think this is a good step. We've had difficulty with appeals over the last few years, and I think this this would definitely help clear some things up. If you look at the last page, it shows that it takes approximately a year once someone appeals under their current code. And I think this change would speed it up a little bit and make it a little clearer and enforce some of the cutoffs, which I think would be very beneficial. So I'm in support of this, and thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Mr. Bennett? Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Brandon Marcotte, M-A-R-C-O-T-T. I'm a professional civil engineer with Tract Engineering.
Thank you. Mr. Marcotte, are you speaking on behalf of an organization or as an individual?
Just myself tonight.
You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
You'll see my full comments on the very far back of the packet. Effectively, I'm just echoing Mr. Bennett's comments and also staff's. This is an ordinance that we've desperately needed over the last 2 years. This body is well aware of the appeals issues that have plagued the development community. I think what we're doing here is cleaning up the process and making it clear for everybody involved, not just the developer, but for the individuals wishing to appeal, establishing clear guidelines and limits on document submittals is critical to keeping it a smooth process, establishing some time frames, and also just making it a smoother process to get done quickly. As Mr. Bennett said, it often takes a year, and for some cases it's taken 2 years. So I think this is definitely a good step in the right direction. I'm just here to voice my support for this change. And that's all I have unless there's any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Mr. Marcotte?
I have one question, and I don't know if you'd be able to answer it or not, but, I mean, I see in the ordinance and in some of the comments, like, in the last few years, there's been an increase in appeals regarding land decisions. Do you have any idea why that is? Like, why it's kind of gone up?
Through the chair, Ms. Walton, there's been a few contentious rezones, namely myself and Craig Bennett have been involved with. And I think those basically ignited the fire, if you will, and really got the community's attention. And, you know, we worked through one case, I think, for about 4 years trying to find a solution. There's 2 different rezone attempts and 2 different plats to come up with a solution that eventually worked. And that case in particular had an appeals on it that went all the way through. And then subsequently thereafter, there was plats in the immediate vicinity of that subdivision. And the same people attended those meetings and had the same input and the same appeals issues cropped up. So I couldn't tell you anything more than I think it's kind of a not in my backyard kind of mentality. There's a lot of I shouldn't say a lot. There's some undeveloped parcels on Hillside that people covet, and when you know, new development comes to town and proposes a change to a zoning, that really gets their attention pretty seriously. So I think it really got the community bound together to try and stop these kind of things.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Marcotte? Do we have any other members of the public wishing to speak? Do we have anybody on the phone? No. Thank you. Hearing none, public testimony is closed. Excellent. I guess the petitioner, who is the staff, do you have anything to add? Use your rebuttal time or your statement time.
No, planning staff has nothing additional to add.
Thank you. All right. So Actually, I do have a question for staff. So are you looking for us to approve case S2? What is the action that you're looking from us?
Yeah, so, Mr. Chair, you can approve the ordinance as written to be furthered, or to be moved on.
So the motion that you're looking to be stated would be that we're looking for case 2022-003 in an ordinance of the Anchorage Assembly amending municipal code. We would just say to see that move forward, or how is?
Recommend approval.
Recommend approval.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now that we have clarification, may I have a motion? We have moved by Zach Young, second by Valerie Ritz. Mr. Young, would you clearly state your motion?
I motion to recommend the approval of the municipality ordinance by the Anchorage Assembly amending Anchorage Municipal Code Section 21.03.050 Appeals and Anchorage Municipal Code of Regulations 21.10.34, 21.10.503, 21.11.304, 21.11.503, 21.13.340, and 21.13.530 to simplify land use appeals.
Thank you. Mr. Young, would you care to speak to your motion?
Yes, I'm going to be supporting this motion because it does a great deal to simplify the process in order to get these things approved. Anchorage has some shifts coming up in the next few years, and I think it's important that we allow development to make reasonable steps towards the things that need to be done in order to continue on with the comprehensive plan that is aligned with Anchorage's growth.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak to this motion? Mr. Porter?
Yes, through the chair, I will also be voting in support of this motion. Having been through the new information process with one of our plats, speaking from personal experience of previous process through the platting board here, I would say that it was fairly confusing to figure out which new information we were reviewing and approving when it really should have, clearly been through an appeals process so that we could clearly know what the appeal was about and what information was being used. So I support the clarification of the appeals process to make it standard with the other boards.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Would also like to speak, Don? Yes, I will also be moving to approve this. It's inspiring to see that we're actually making the process and we're rescinding some of the unnecessary bureaucracy involved with private property rights or developing your land, which on the 3 years I've been here at times is heartbreaking to see what it does to individuals and the cost, the time, and the expense. So I am very pleased to see that we're giving the private property owners and their rights and in amending some of the appeal process so that people don't continue to be exhausted by the process. So I voraciously will be supporting this. So thank you. May we have a vote? Seven yeses, 0 noes. Recommendation passes. Excellent. That's the end of tonight's business. So do we have any appearance requests? Is there any final business, anything that needs to be completed before I look for an adjournment? Nothing. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Move to adjourn.